Who would believe that this old palette could stand up to this one? But here we are. Hi, welcome to the Art Up, and today we're going to dive into bright pastel goodness with my BH Cosmetics Lost in Los Angeles palette. I actually handpicked this palette specifically for my June No Pen Left Behind rotation because I wanted to get the most out of this palette because it literally is made for summer. It is full of those cheerful, sunny shades that are bright, soft, perfect for this time of the year. And actually, it is one of the older palettes in my collection, and despite that, it held up surprisingly well. The pigmentation, the texture, all of that worked beautifully. But I will get more into that as we go through the looks. This is one of my favorite ways to wear pastels, by pairing them with browns. This is one of my versions of spicy neutrals. You're kind of wearing soft, everyday look, but with a pop of color in your inner corner and a little bit of shimmer on your lid, in the center specifically. And I think it is super summery. So I'm wearing Dreamer in my inner corner, Runyon Canyon on the outer corner, and Malibu in the center. Also, I popped a little bit of the white, the Abbey, on my lower lash line in order to brighten up a little bit. I used this Sephora eye pencil in the shade Sea Green Matte as the base for that green pastel because I was not sure how pigmented it will show up. I thought that maybe it would need some help, but it held up there beautifully even without any base. So taking into consideration how old this palette is, I think this is the best pastel green that I have in my collection currently. After I created that look, I was so impressed with how the pastels performed that I had no other choice but to compare them to one of my favorite mattes formula blends from Blend Bunny. And let me tell you, BH Cosmetics did not disappoint. This little pastel palette really raised to the occasion. In fact, the white shade from BH actually outperformed the one in Blend Bunny's palette, which I was not expecting at all. Now, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of this palette is how good the mattes are, especially considering how long ago this palette launched. I would never imagine that there would be time when I compare these two palettes. I don't know how about you, but for me, summer is the only season where I feel the most confident wearing colorful eye pencils or eyeliners. And this palette was literally looking at me screaming, saying, come on, just do one. And I gave in and I felt full lavender mode. So for my eyeliner, at first I sketched it with pastel pink or pastel white. I think I used my pastel pink Wet n Wild pencil to have a kind of outline of the wing, and then I tapped into pastel purple and put it all over that pencil. Slightly blended it in, make sure that my wing is very sharp, and boom, it's done. Super easy and super fun. All over the lid, I think I have the Hills. In the crease, I have Runyon Canyon. I think this is how you say it. And along my lower lash line, I have Rush Hour. I would say everything came together nicely, and it is, for me, super summery look. I found this look online, and I wanted immediately to try to recreate it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was the promo picture for BH Cosmetics promoting this exact palette. I have Rodeo Drive all over my lid, Runyon Canyon in my crease, Sunset Boulevard along the lower lash line, and Starstruck in the center of the lid. Also, I have a mixture of Abbott Canny and 9210 in my inner corner and along the lower lash line. Usually I wear pastels in my waterline, but today I felt a little bit experimental and I decided to go neon pink. I think it's actually very cute and definitely something I would wear during summer festival. What about you? That lower lash line look really stuck with me, so I ended up doing kind of another version of it. Here I used Lax in the crease, Rush Hour all over the lid, and the 405 on the lower lash line. Chef's Kiss. And doing that look taught me 3 things. First one, Viho and the 405 is an amazing blush shade. I enjoyed them so much that I'm seriously considering pulling them out of this palette and creating my own custom eyeshadow blush hybrid palette. Secondly, Rush Hour turned out to be such a pleasant surprise. It is this very soft silvery kind of bluish satin that is very forgiving on eyes and extremely everyday wearable. Once I removed the brighter lower lash line, the look turned out to be work appropriate. I actually wore it to work and it gave this subtle but spicy vibe, like perfect spicy neutral. And thirdly, it's kind of side note, after I created that look, I fell in love again with my blue ColourPop eye pencil. I don't want to mix in too much project pan talk here, but once I use up my purple ColourPop eye pencil, I am switching to this one because it is buttery smooth, it has that very flattering deep blue shade, and it's just too good to get buried in my drawers. Moving on to the next look, and here I was going for a pinkish, summery, flower kind of vibe. I used Starstruck in the center of the lid and also toward the inner part. I used Sunset Boulevard on the outer corner and 9210 in the inner corner as a highlight. Then I added Melrose and Abbott Kinney along my lower lash line, and I also popped a little bit of WeHo in the crease, and I also used it as a blush. As a liner, I used my ColourPop eye pencil. I really enjoyed that look. Unfortunately, it is a good example of the less, the better. Sadly, I did not film the step-by-step process of application. I wish I had, because if I could do it again, I would totally skip the intense purple lower lash line, and instead I would use something way lighter, weight softer, something like maybe Runyon Canyon, to keep it airy, lighter, because it was better like this. Maybe I would even skip the purple eyeliner at all. This look was inspired by a flower. I think it's called Garden Cosmos. This is the flower I'm talking about. It is very soft, very delicate, but extremely bright. So the next time I am doing this look, I'm going to make it more airy. The other thing is this palette helped me to find my ways into enjoying golden and yellows. Before, I tend to shy away from them because I have pinkish undertones, so yellow and golden shades tend to stand out on me a lot, like sometimes too much. But then I created this look and then recreated Lisa Aldridge Golden Halo Eye, and it kind of changed everything. I realized that with a little bit of experimenting, I can make yellow and golden shades work for me. Maybe not the way I would expect, but still work. For me, that would be pairing them with pinks and using only as an accent colors, like in a halo eye. And I'm very grateful to that palette for showing me that. And once again, reminding me that makeup is not about following the rules. It's about finding what works for you and just sticking to that. Makeup is supposed to be fun. And as for today's look, I am wearing City of Angels on my outer corner and maybe a little bit here, and 9210 all over my lid. I was also trying to go for a kind of liner with a gap here in the wing, but it's not very even, though I'm fine with that. It's a kind of learning in the process. This side shows better what I was going for. Matte on the lid is something I rarely do. Overall, color-wise, this palette has the same issues I ran into with my Nomad Paradise Island palette. It is lacking that classic deepening shade, something to add contrast. So in the end, I ended up doing either 2 shades eye looks, or I got some sparkle on the lid and the corresponding matte shade in my crease. It is easy everyday friendly, beginner friendly, and I would even say that if you feel nervous around a color, this is actually a very good palette to try. The shades aren't bright or neon, they are rather soft, so you can ease into the color without feeling overwhelmed. The mattes, they are solid, they are buildable, something that I really enjoy, and you can use a fluffy brush in order to get just a hint of color, or you can pack them on if you're going for something more impactful or more intense. I'll be real with you, I'm not a big fan of shimmers in this palette. I would say they are rather dry, especially the shades Melrose and Rush Hour, but maybe that's because of the age. Also, I got a lot of fallout under my eyes, so do your eyes first. Otherwise, they are good working settings. With that being said, I am so happy that I gave this palette its own dedicated month. I figured out how to use yellows, I've discovered a very cute blush shade, and I felt sad that BH Cosmetics doesn't do this anymore. And honestly, I got such a soft spot for this palette in my heart, and I really want to use it more. Not because I feel guilty because of neglecting it so much or because it's getting old, but it's genuinely a good palette. I'm even thinking of maybe creating some project for it, like maybe penning eyeshadows in order, but I think that would be a little bit too much. Anyway, let's move on from that bittersweet moment and talk about something I'm really excited for, my next No Pen Left Behind pick. So for July and August, I'm going to focus on my blends palette because, let's be real, there is no way I can use up all the shades in like 4 weeks. This is a full matte palette, so I decided to mix in my Cleona and Divina shades and also other miscellaneous singles that I'm heavily neglecting. I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed because there is a huge amount of looks I have to do, but on the other hand, I'm very excited to dip my toes into it. And if you have any go-to creators who nail bright looks, let me know in the comment section below because I will need a lot of inspiration. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you are also looking for inspiration or fresh ideas on how to use your older eyeshadow palettes, I have a whole list dedicated to that. Actually, I've already used the majority of my eyeshadow palettes. That's great. Hope you are going to have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.